Okay, so for tonight's assignment, we're going to plot these. You don't have to do this in big ideas. I'm going to give you the visual so you kind of understand what's going on, okay? So I'll go ahead and draw a graph. Try to make it accurate. 1, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And 7, negative 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, negative 1. All right, so here is the line segment. It's wanting you to come up with the equation of a line that is a perpendicular bisector to this. So it's going to be somewhere in that area, okay? And so what do we need? We have y equals mx plus b. That's the equation of a line, right? So we need the slope and we need the intercept. So the first thing we need to do is find the slope of our line, but we don't know anything about our line. We only have the line they gave us. So let's find the slope of the line they gave us. So we're going to take y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So negative 1 minus 5 and 7 minus 1. That gives us negative 6 over 6 or negative 1. And that makes sense. If we start at the top point, we go down 1 over 1. Right? Down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. We're right on that line each time. That's the slope of that line. But our line is perpendicular to this one. So how do we find the perpendicular slope if we know that slope? Parallel lines have the same slope. So if it was parallel, we would say our slope is negative 1. Who remembers how to find the perpendicular slope? Come on, my students. What's perpendicular slope? Opposite reciprocal. You have to remember this, guys. This is on you. Opposite sign, so this would be positive. And what's the reciprocal of negative 1 over 1? So this would be a positive 1 over 1. That's going to be the slope of our line because our line is perpendicular, isn't it? Okay, so now we have y equals 1x. You can put the 1 there if you want, plus b. You don't have to have the 1. It's understood that it's there. So the first thing you have to do is find your slope. And it's different because you have to find the perpendicular slope. Next thing, how do we find b? To find b, we need to know x and y. And what we did last semester is to find x and y, you have to have a point. Well, usually they give us a point on our line. But they didn't give us a point on our line. But they did tell us that this is a perpendicular bisector. So the bisector goes through the middle of that segment. So how do I find a point in the middle? Midpoint formula. What's the midpoint formula? X plus x over 2 and y plus y over 2. So you use the original coordinates and figure this out. So 1 plus 7 over 2 and 7 plus, 5 plus negative 1 over 2. So 8 over 2 is 4 and 4 over 2 is 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Right there is the midpoint. Let's plug 4 and 2 into the correct positions. 4 is your x and 2 is your y. So 2 equals 1 times 4 is 4 plus b. Step 1, find the slope you want. Step 2, you got to have a point on your line that you can substitute in. And now we can find the y-intercept. So we subtract 4, and we get negative 2 equals b. So our equation of our line is y equals 1x plus b. b is negative 2. You can say minus 2, you can say plus negative 2. So that's the answer to the problem, but on the graph, let me show you. It goes through the y-axis at negative 2. So right here. And our slope is 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. And we're right there. And doesn't that look like it's perpendicular? So visually it works. You're not actually graphing, but it does work. So what do you have to do? The first thing you always do when you find the equation of a straight line is what? Every single time, no matter what math class you're in. What do we do first? We found the slope. And the tricky part about this is you had to find the perpendicular part of it. What's the second thing you're supposed to do? Find the y-intercept. And the tricky part about that is you got to have a point on your line. So we're going to do the second problem, and then I'll stop the video. All right? So let's go to the second one. Let me move all this stuff up. All right, number 2 in big ideas. I'm going to draw my graph down here. Oops, let's put this over here. Okay, negative 2, 0 is right there. And 6, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. So that's the 2 endpoints. Let's go ahead and what are we supposed to do first? What's the first thing? Slope. All right. So everybody find the slope. And then look up and see if you got it right. Because somebody's going to miss it. So let's make sure we have this. If I start down at this bottom negative 2, 0 spot, I go up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 2, up 3, over 2, up 3, over 2, up 3, and over 2. So that's how that part works. And you can freehand it if you do your slope like that. Now, we can see what the midpoint's going to be, but we're going to pretend we don't know what it is because you do not have to graph these. You should be able to find these answers without graphing them. I'm just graphing them to give you the correct visual. Okay, so we have the slope of that line. We have to find the slope of the perpendicular line. So what is the perpendicular slope? Somebody who hasn't talked. Anybody that knows that hasn't talked, please tell me what the perpendicular slope would be. I'll even tell you, it's opposite reciprocal. Okay. Negative 2 over 3. All right. So our equation is y equals negative 2/3 x plus b. That was step 1. You guys have to remember how to do this. Step 2. What do we do in step 2? What are we trying to do? Find b, which is your y-intercept of your new line. Okay? So in order to find b, we have to know x and y. X and y is a coordinate. We need a point on our new line. Now, visually, we can see where it's at. But if you're not graphing it, we need to find out how to do that. And how do we do that? What did we do the last problem? Midpoint. Okay, so everybody do the midpoint. X plus x over 2 and y plus y over 2. Please do that. Okay, so 12 plus, oops, I'm sorry. Erase that. Do the x's first. Negative 2 plus 6 over 2. And 0 plus 12 over 2. Negative 2 plus 6 is 4. 4 over 2 is 2. 0 plus 12 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So just visually, where is 2, 6? 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yes, that is the midpoint. And that is your x and your y to put into your equation. Make sure you put them in the right positions. Y is 6. X is 2. And now I can find b. So 6 equals -4/3 plus b. So before I finish this, everybody look up at the screen. We know where the midpoint is now. I can use my slope to try to find visually the y-intercept and watch what happens. So my slope is -2/3. Rise over run. Down 2 and over 3. Down 2 and over 3. Or go backwards. Up 2 and over 3. And when you do that, you see that it doesn't quite cross the y-axis at a nice, neat point. And this is why you need to know how to do your math. So we're going to add 4/3 to 6. And that'll give us our y-intercept. So we need a common denominator, so we multiply top and bottom by 3. 18 plus 4 all over 3, which is 22/3. So in big ideas, you can say the answer would be -2/3 x plus 22/3. That's the answer in the book. So what is 22/3 as a mixed number? How many times does 3 go into 22? Every single person. How many times does 3 go into 22? 7 times. And what's the remainder? 1. That goes in the top and the denominator stays the same. So 22/3 is 7 1/3. Look at where that circle's at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 1/3 gets me the exact y-intercept. Now you're not graphing, but you all are supposed to be really good at this. You're supposed to know how to get mixed numbers from improper fractions. So what's the first thing you're supposed to do on each of these problems? Find the slope, and in particular, we're finding the perpendicular slope. What's the second thing? B, which is the y-intercept. And why is it hard? Because you have to find the midpoint to substitute in your x and y.